Now that we managed to unit test the first method, and that is add new car from the car controller, let us get to see the unit test that I added for this other method, the getAllCars method. So I will show you directly the code because the design is exactly the same. So the only things that I added are two methods actually in here, two unit tests that are testing this getAllCars, and you'll see why I did that. So the first getAllCars method, so this again unit test the happy path. So what I did is first you'll have clearly to understand what is happening in here. So this getAllCars will basically return a response entity that will contain a list of cars. So the body will be a list of cars provided by this method from the car service class. It also, the response entity contains an HTTP headers object that contains only one header that has key app name and value max app, and also the status code is 200 OK. Okay, so how I did that? Again, I split the unit test in three parts: given, when, then. I created a list of cars which contains only one car, and that's again Opel Meriva. I also created HTTP headers exactly like the ones from the car controller method. And in here, what I did was to create an expected response entity object. Why I did that? So in order for me to verify that what is actually returned is equal to my expectations, I created an object, right? And then called the actual method from the car controller. The actual response, I compare it with the expected one. Also, it's important not to miss this part. So this car service getAllCars method from here was mocked, and this method will return this list of cars. And in here we have the assertion that the actual response is equal to the expected response. If I'll debug it, and let me put also a debug point here as well. So you'll see that it calls this, right? This car service getAllCars. I mocked the response of this method, and you can see that there's a list with one Opel Meriva car, right? And in here, the expected response, right? The object that I created here. I said that in order for my test to be successful, the actual response has to be equal to my expected response, which of course it happens. As for the second test that I created, it does exactly the same thing, but a bit different. Instead of me creating an expected response object, what I did was create the list of cars, create an expected HTTP headers object, and mocked again the car service getAllCars method. I called the getAllCars method from the car controller class, and then I did, instead of doing one big assertion, I did three smaller ones. So from the actual response, I got the status, which I know it should be HTTP status OK. Then I got the headers from the actual response, and I compared them with what I expect to happen. And then I got the body, and I know that the body has to be equal to this list. So again, what I did, as you can see, the test is passing. If even one small thing is different, you'll see that when I try to run the test, it will fail. So as you can see, it's actually even saying to me that, so it's saying that one assertion failed. I think it's a bit easier. Okay, so it's saying that the expected was this, as you can see it in here, right? But the actual response was this. So it was the difference in the key. So right now, we just managed to create unit tests for car controller. Again, why I created two unit tests for the same method? So I just wanted to show you that there are multiple ways in writing a good unit test. I think that you have to keep in mind some aspects like creating a simple test, that it's readable, it tests the code well, and the way you do it, it's not really that important, let's say, as long as the unit test does what it should. From my point of view, it's a keeper. So from my point of view, both of these tests are good ones. If you'd ask me, I would only keep one of them because it doesn't make sense to write two unit tests which do the same thing. But again, I just wanted to show you that there is there isn't only one way to write a good unit test. There are many ways. And this was just a pure example of that.